Impeachment momentum building for Democrats. A majority of lawmakers in the House now support taking action against the president. The move being seen as a political risk because at the moment, polling shows a majority of Americans do not support impeachment. Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Democrats are still pressing ahead.
The president has been engaged in a cover-up all along.
I think there are any number of potential crimes when a president is soliciting foreign assistance again.
Donald Trump is going to choke on this supposed nothing burger. He will go down with this supposed nothing burger in his throat, because what it shows is repeated, concerted, premeditated criminal conduct.
So, Katie, the polling is interesting here. We have a new Politico Morning Consult poll. They have support for impeachment up 7 points in the last few days. It's now 43-43. What's interesting to me, by the way, is like 40% of independents now support it, and even a 5% jump from 5 to 10 among Republicans. What do you think?
Well, first, I'm a little nervous about Senator Wyden saying a nothing burger is going to get stuck in the president's throat. That was a little weird. Blumenthal, getting a little weird with their language and description of what they think is happening. But I think that the idea that impeachment is now moving forward with Nancy Pelosi at the helm proves that she's no longer in charge. AOC is in charge. Republicans are raising millions of dollars off of impeachment. The Trump campaign is celebrating, saying that they think now President Trump will certainly win in a landslide in 2020. And President Trump now, every time he does a briefing or a gaggle with reporters, he ticks off all of the things that he's been wanting to do. So gun control legislation or reform. He wants to do, all these other issues, infrastructure, health care, the budget. And now he's saying we can't get that done because the Democrats want to focus on this. And Americans look at it who don't want impeachment, according to all the polling, which hasn't really moved much, and say, which one? I'm either not going to vote for Democrats, or I'm going to sit it out, or, maybe I'll go to the Republican side because they want to actually get things done with my tax money and the votes that I've given them for the power they have in the House.
Jesse, I noticed today the president tweeted that if he gets impeached, the markets are going to tank. So I guess he's trying to have some impact on what I consider to be the shifting sands of public opinion with this latest poll. What do you think?
Well, I don't believe the poll, number one. I have a Rasmussen poll, highly regarded Rasmussen poll, very accurate, 24% of independents. Yeah. So I've seen some different opinions about that. I'm not ready to take that to heart. Before we talk about that, Juan, I brought something for you.
Oh, please.
Because now we have to deal with source documentation on the show.
Yes.
And I have found, from 1999, 2000, a treaty with Ukraine, signed by Bill Clinton, and the treaty with Ukraine on mutual legal assistance in criminal matters, which basically establishes a range of cooperation between the two governments of the Ukraine and the United States about making testimony available, making people available, making documents and records available, and assisting in the cooperation of mutual criminal matters. And they don't even have to be criminal. They can just be allegations. So there is a firm legal underpinning to the request for the commander-in-chief to a country, an ally who we have a treaty with about criminal procedure, to say, hey, can you look into some potential corruption allegations involving a U.S. citizen? Now, if you're going to say that Biden is not, under this treaty,
what?
That means that because he's a potential, candidate against the president, since he's a political opponent in election season, he can't be investigated. That means any time that I'm accused of a crime overseas, I can just declare I'm running for president, and then I can't be prosecuted by the government. No, I am not.
I don't know. I think
he's running for president.
Under that, though, then to your point about the Obama team and Hillary Clinton team, under that same treaty, asking for Ukrainian help to investigate Donald Trump, that would still fit underneath the same treaty.
Right. So if that is an investigation that is a counterintelligence investigation, that does not fall under a criminal investigation, because that's what that was under Barack Obama. And remember, there were no basis for those inquiries either. And then if you're going to say that that's okay, then what Trump did is okay, too.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, you win. I give up. But, Greg, I don't give up with you. I want to ask you something.
Sure.
So what is the right do right now? Do they have to close their eyes, their ears? Do they have to turn the blanket over their head and say, Trump did nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong with this conversation?
No one's doing that. What we're doing, and I count myself as one of them, is sticking to the facts. The polls reflect that the public does not want impeachment. That means the media needs to get to work and change their minds, which is what they're doing. My job, and the job of a lot of people, is to expose how obvious the media are in shaping the environment to benefit the Democrats. What they're willing to do over a casual phone call, because they haven't recovered from 2016, is risking the social cohesion of a country. The media doesn't care about that because this is their profit model. Division is their profit model. It's their strategy. So they're willing to upend an economy, stop a peaceful, prosperous nation in its tracks because they can't get over the fact that Trump won. In fact, they are impeaching over a personality defect. They don't like him. That's pretty grotesque.
There's lots
All
of
right.